then we're
This
recording.
meeting is being recorded. Very good. You got it. You
Well,
did
there
it.
you go.
Okay.
Thank you.
So you can,
Thank
Dan,
you.
you have control as to who you could make a co-host if you like. And I am demoting myself to a nobody, and I'm going to disappear.
Okay, Ray, have a good
Wow.
evening and thank
You
you.
must be
Go
a wizard.
Dodgers.
Poof.
Look, this is what I'm going to do. I am going to disappear and go find myself a bottle of scotch and have a cocktail, and I'll be thinking of all of you.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask all of us to finish this as quickly as possible to go watch the Dodger game.
There you go. Okay, guys, I'll see you later.
Okay, Ray.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you,
Take
Ray.
care, all.
Thank you.
Hey,
I
John.
see John is here. Hi, John. Hey, John,
Hi, John.
you're a little, can you hear me, John? Hello, John. Yeah. Have your technical director move your head up in the frame, John. Or you're a little low in the frame.
He's connected.
Hi, Dave.
Good evening,
Okay.
Dave.
Hello, Vic. Hello, Vic. Can people hear me? Excuse me while I turn a light on in this room. It's going to get dark in here. I'll be right back.
How you doing, David? You could unmute yourself, Dave.
There you are.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. Yep, everything's fine. It's been a busy day.
Yeah.
Oh, who's that fat guy sitting down? Oh, it's me. Okay. So John DeMeglio connecting to audio. Yay.
I got you now.
Good.
Ah, there you are.
John, are you able to tilt your screen a little so you're more in the, you're like
Yeah.
Kilroy.
Okay, let me see where. Okay, there you go. I
Oh,
couldn't.
that's better.
Okay, perfect.
I couldn't see
Yay.
myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
That's
kinda
our
had-
problem
You
often.
kind of had that Kilroy look, you know?
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, it looks good now. I see you in full. Excellent.
I'm sorry.
Victor, hi, Vic. And hi, David and John and me. And I understand, oh, wait, attendees, 0. I understand from Lori Jacobs that we were going to have some high school students visiting. We'll see if they actually show up. If they're smart, they're going to watch the Dodger game. And
Yeah.
am I correct that it starts in 5 minutes,
Yes, it does.
10 minutes? Oh, well then let's rocket man through this. We'll officially start in 3 minutes, but I just want to say that this looks like a friendly and productive group, and let's keep it that way.
Friendly.
Oh, participants 5, attendees 0. Good. Lori Jacobs is in the mountains
She
with
got
no
her
internet.
stuff.
With no internet.
She got it
No
back.
internet. Pardon me?
She got it back
Oh,
Oh, okay.
about 10 minutes ago.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, anyway, attendees too. We have 2 attendees. It is Alexa Yamas and Vega. And I would suspect they might be our some of our high school folks. I would hope so.
We got 3 now. Alvarado Jacks.
Sounds like a bright group of high school students. If I'm incorrect, let me know. All right, well, we're close enough to time. And I will say that as much as I want to get through this and go watch the Dodger game, my other issue is my daughter is within days of delivering a baby, and
oh.
it's possible that anything can happen. So I don't think it will within the next hour. But we're excited about that. With that, I will say welcome to all who are here, our committee members and our participants and attendees, and Alexa, Jax, and Vega. Vega Vega. Hello, Vega, Jax, and Alexa. Very well. Then at mark, more or less 5 o'clock, I'll say, hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. This is the monthly meeting of the Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council Community Issues Committee, an august body who we spend a fair amount of our time thinking about and trying to be helpful in seeing to improvements in San Pedro when we can do so. I think we all love San Pedro, but we all probably agree there are some things we can do to make it better. And that's what we try to look at in this committee. And we have a short agenda tonight, not lengthy. And it wasn't because of the baseball game, but I'll take advantage of it. The only motion that we have tonight, and that would involve a vote of the committee, and we do have a quorum of the committee. We have 7 or 8 members on our committee. 5 of them are present, so that constitutes a quorum, and we can vote on any item that comes up, and it's for real. Item number 4 is an actual motion. The others are more or less discussions, friendly discussions about issues of concern to us here in the community. So with that, if anyone has any questions or wishes to introduce themselves, please let me know. We're happy to see our guests are here, and we will proceed. I guess that constitutes a welcome and partial introduction. So we'll move on to item 2. And this is really an open discussion tonight because it's being handled by so many different community bodies and government bodies and law enforcement bodies and social service bodies that it's a little above our pay grade, if I may say, to talk too much about specifics of unhoused or homeless people in our community. But what brought this to mind, and the reason it's on the agenda tonight, is recently it's become noticed by some of us here in what you used to call the suburbs, the housing developments here in San Pedro, and which you see everywhere from Torrance and Long Beach, even into Palos Verdes, and then everywhere in Southern California. I think we all know that the number of unhoused people, homeless people, has increased with the passage of time. And the official response from the city and the governing authorities is kind of all over the place, yet it's fixed in some ways. When a homeless person enters a neighborhood, they have every right to be there unless they cause harm of some sort. It's not surprising that people are surprised to see and kind of taken aback by the condition of some of these folks who, through poor decision-making or through no fault of their own, have been put into one of the most difficult tasks that life can offer, living on the streets. I don't think we need to go into how difficult that is or how unpleasant it is. But what we're seeing now is folks walking into the neighborhoods, and I specifically on my street and in a couple of other streets here in the Taper Avenue area and the Harbor Highlands area of San Pedro, a young man was noticed in broad daylight sleeping on the driveway apron of somebody's home.
Oh,
Now, if it, you know, all sorts of questions arise. Why was he there? What does it mean? What can be done about it, if anything, or what should we do in general? The fact that he was on the driveway apron put him in a public space. It's not technically owned by the homeowner. So he was within his rights to be there. The difficulty for some of us living here was fear for him. It was broad daylight. He posed no evident harm or threat to anyone, but he was endangering himself by sleeping in a driveway apron. And if you've noticed, people sometimes don't look carefully, or some harm might have occurred to him by being there. The end result was that the police were called, and they rightly made it clear that there wasn't a lot they could do, but if he was ill, had a medical condition, or seemed to, that the fire department could come. So that was how that call was directed, and it went to the fire department. Before the fire department got here, the young man stood up, woke up, stood up, and walked back down our cul-de-sac towards Harbor Highlands Park. No harm, no foul, just real concern, mostly for his well-being, but naturally there's some concern by the neighbors for the neighborhood. The next day he was seen again sleeping, this time on a regular sidewalk across Capitol Drive in another part of the Taper Avenue neighborhood. This is not unique, and I don't think it represents a significant escalation in the numbers of unhoused people that are in our area, but it is different in terms of maybe where they are beginning to congregate. Normally, we see them in our park, or we see them in business areas. It's rare to see a person who may indeed have some mental or medical issue hanging out, for lack of a better term, in the neighborhood. It's not a criminal act. It's an act of concern, and should be an act that merits compassion from the neighborhood. That gets us into a whole other area. How do we respond? And that is a question being dealt with and worked on by the city, the county, the state, every local authority you can think of. And a lot of money is being spent to make a difference, to turn this ocean liner around in the middle of the ocean. It's very difficult. But I think I'm asking right now if anyone on board here has experienced something similar. If you feel that the situation is changing, if there are more unhoused people that you see around, and this is not a tattletale thing. It's just, I know that some of the neighbors here were kind of surprised because they had never seen this sort of activity before. It's as if, oh, there are homeless people? And I know they didn't mean it in that way, but they've never seen them here on our street. And it was surprising to them. David and John, and I know you live over in the Taper Avenue area directly, and you have the public school there, you have the continuation high school across Westmont, and you have Harbor Highlands Park, as do we here. And I just wonder, does any of this register as being anything new in your minds?
Hey, Dan,
you
before
have
you
any comment?
continue, Dan, Chuck,
Yes.
Chuck Hart is on an attendee.
Good.
You need
Hello,
to make
Chuck.
him-
Glad
Well, you
you're
can-
here, Chuck.
Okay, you can't make him, he should be a panelist, no?
Yes. Oh, Chuck. How do I make you a panelist? Ooh. Allowed to, promote to panelist. Hey, you're in, Chuck. And good. By the way, I'm sure you've figured this out already. I'm a total novice at this. So if I disconnect you or mute you unexpectedly, please forgive me and we'll try to work it out. So Chuck, I think you're on board with us now as a panelist. And glad to see all the other attendees here. Thank you. And I see that Lori Jacobs is here. Lori, if you can hear me. I know we have some young people here from the high schools, and they know what to do to get credit for joining us here tonight. If you can unmute yourself. Oh, allowed to talk. Oh, you're allowed. Alexis, I see a hand up.
Mother, may I?
Oh, hello, Lori. Thank you.
Yes, I already coordinated this with John. John's going to write down the names of the students, and I
Good.
will contact the high school for all of them that are there. I don't know how many you have. At last week's coastal meeting, they had 70.
70?
Yep.
Well, that's an active group of high schoolers. Now, I believe we have 4 or 5, perhaps. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think 5, perhaps. So,
Do they all have names, or do some of them just have phone numbers?
oh no, they're names.
Okay, perfect.
If-
That's all we need.
Okay, some of them are kind of, no, they're identifiable names. So
Okay.
anyway,
There's,
welcome again, everybody.
There's 6 of them.
6 of them, okay. And if any of you would like to comment or ask a question or speak up, just, you know better than I how to raise your hand in a Zoom meeting. So don't hesitate to do so, and thank you. Anyway, so back to the subject, if it is a subject. I just, again, we're not going to bring anything new to the equation tonight, except an acknowledgement that as the unhoused issue and problem evolves, the problems of them evolve, it seems logical we will see more folks with or without mental issues or other issues about in our community. And what I tried to do when my neighbors began to question why this young man was here was I tried to point out to them that of all the people involved in the situation, he might have been the most innocent of all. He's in a situation, and he is here, and he's on the street, and he's one of us, and he needs to be attended to. Our power and ability to attend to these folks is limited, and Lori is really on top of this. But what I did advise my neighbors is think of who this is. It's some mother's child, and I am really talking about the folks who clearly seem to have an altered mental state or an altered mental condition or another altered state. So I would only counsel to my neighbors and to anyone who comes in contact with these folks is if you feel threatened, if you feel great concern for your safety, call 911 or call the fire department. If you believe there's a medical issue, call the fire department. And Lori, if the most direct way to do that is through calling 911, then that's the way to do that. My neighbor on whose driveway this gentleman was sleeping really thought he had a medical issue. she wasn't sure if he was breathing at all. So she did call 911. Lori, what am I missing here?
Well, first of all, thank you for tackling this, Dan. It's obviously a very complex situation. And
Yes,
one thing you said that's very important, never put yourself in danger. Okay. If you're not trained to know, don't approach somebody if you think that, something, that you could be harmed. So you want to be very careful there. LA Hop is a place to report homeless. That's on our website under homelessness resources. Unfortunately, their response time is a little slower than it used to be because of everything going on. And honestly, our neighborhood's starting to see more of this, but this has been prevalent in central San Pedro for a long time and a lot worse. This is not new. But yes, if medical, certainly you're going to call 911. I sent you information that they realize a high percentage of the homeless have mental health issues. And they just this week rolled out a new program, and they're trying to get more mental health facilities, because just arresting somebody and taking them to jail, incarcerating somebody is not a solution. And so they're working towards that. So the new units will either take them to a mental health center, take them to an ER, or take them to a substance abuse recovery, rather than incarcerating them unless they have committed a crime.
let's see. What was the organization you mentioned? LA Hop?
LA Hop. I will send John Barbera the link, and you can put it up on your screen, but it is on our website, and that is the first response to dealing with somebody who's just homeless. But if there's a medical situation, that's different.
Good. Well, I think you just said what I wanted to get across here, that this is certainly not new, as we know, to Central and many Central San Pedro and many areas in Los Angeles and every other city in the world. It's not new at all. It is newer and less frequent, or has been, in our particular area, except at a location such as our little park, where you do tend to see people sleeping and using the facilities and being there. Sometimes, on occasion, there is a threatening feeling or a threatening act committed by them, and that needs to be attended to. But to have them, and when I say them, I don't mean to demean them, to have any individual that appears to be in some form of distress walking around the neighborhood or falling asleep in a position where he might actually be run over, that's of concern, and that is fairly new here. And I don't want to just blanketly say we better get used to it, but in fact, that's a part of this. It is a happening thing. It's ongoing, and we need to adjust our sensibilities sufficiently to realize that this is a happening thing. There, as Lori says, there are resources available, not as many or as quick to respond as we might wish, but
Yeah, Peter.
I'm sorry, but that is, but they do exist, and I would say a situation like this calls not for panic, but for reasonable concern, coupled with an open mind, an open heart, and just a willingness to look at a situation on an individual basis.
Dan, that was extremely compassionate, and I really appreciate the way that you presented that. The fact is, the majority of people who are unsheltered right now are not that way because of their own personal choice. It's because of circumstances. And it's important for people to remember there's a difference between somebody being unsheltered and somebody being a criminal. And there are people, and I think the people across the railroad tracks fall more into the vagrant or criminal category rather than somebody who's just homeless. And unfortunately, due to COVID and the economic situation, the rate of people becoming homeless is higher than the rate of people getting put into some type of shelter.
Right, which is an entirely other issue, one that needs to be looked at a higher pay grade than mine. But the fact is, the resolution of this situation is going to be expensive, time consuming, and try everyone's patience. But whatever the resolution is, or whatever the solution is, if there is one, I think mostly we need to keep trying. If something doesn't work, then we try something else. I hope we don't get locked into a one-size-fits-all solution that really is not appropriate. So thank you, Lori. Unless anyone else would like to comment, please. I'm ready to move on. And if I'm missing any raised hands, I don't know. Beat me with a stick. Let's see. No, I don't see any.
I have a raised hand, Dan.
John DeMeglio, yes, sir.
Not only that, that's a dangerous situation because for the most part, if it's at night, most of these people that don't have homes, I don't know what you're calling them now, but you can't see them. They have dark clothes. And it's to see. So that becomes a very dangerous situation if somebody's laid out in a apron where the people come in and out of their driveways. And increasingly you're seeing people crossing the streets that you can't see in the middle of the night. I drive in the middle of the night anywhere from midnight to 3, 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning. And all of a sudden at the last minute, you see somebody flashing by you. So a temporary solution, temporary suggestion to some of this stuff is to start giving out some type of reflective clothing to these people, just temporary, until we figure out something, that we can do to help these people. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. And that's reflective clothing is an excellent idea. It would be true for people who ride bicycles at night or do anything else at night.
Correct.
I'm astonished at how folks who you would not in any way think are unhoused or homeless, but are walking around at night, think you can see them in hoodies and dark pants and dark shoes. So it's good common sense for everyone, and if reflective material or clothing can be part of the care packages that are delivered to unhoused people, I think that'd be great. It's an excellent idea because it is a problem. Thank you. Now I'm going to call on everybody listening. And I sort of know the answer to this, but I want to ask you, do any of you listening feel that the level of the noise from train horns in the middle of the night down by the port, has that been increasing recently? Is it the same? Am I just getting more cranky in my old age, or is it a real issue? I think it is an issue, and the question is how to resolve it, which of course involves money, but I wanted to put it to the group here. And John DeMeglio, your hand is up. Do you have something on this?
Yeah.
Good.
The word is out that it's going to be an increase of over 50% in the harbor. Okay. The word
Of traffic, port traffic
of cargo coming in.
Yeah.
Okay. From until the end of the year, or even it's supposed to be a good year next year also. So what you're looking at is also them closing not using the Panama Canal as much because they're now finding it not feasible to do that. So they're going to dump all the stuff here. So it's increasing, which they were trying to avoid here, but it ended up being that they can't avoid this place. And they're going to start dumping it here instead of going through the canal. It's going to increase, and they're going to train it all out. So yeah, there is going to be a big increase of train traffic. Now, and you're right. I mean, I used to love the train horns, you know, the whistles that came by. It used to be really nice, just like in the fog, when it was a foggy day and you had your windows open, you can hear the tugboat horns and all that blasting too. But it's becoming it's been a nuisance the last few years. And one of the things is also that this deal over here, the fuel place that we have right here on Westmont and Gaffey, that Janet Gunther got them to stop piping the fuel into it. So what they did was now train it into it. Train the
You're
fuel.
speaking of the tanks
Yeah.
at
So
Westmont and Gaffey?
there's a lot more train activity here than it's ever been.
Mhm.
So we because we didn't want it piped, now they found another way where they're just going to train it. They're going to train it into us, and it's creating a lot of the horns are blasting on off the hook. And I don't hear as much of the port horns, the trains that go up. There's not too many. You got two major docks here. You got China Shipping, and you got this other one on the corner of Wilmington that train their stuff out that would affect us. It's not that many. The main
So-
noise that because I'm right in back of it. So the main noise that I'm hearing is from the fuel place right here on Gaffey and Westmont. It's
So that's
out-
what I wanted to ask. So when we're awakened at 2, 3 in the morning by train horns, is that the Harbor Beltline? Do they ship in and out of those tanks on a regular, almost daily basis in the middle of the night? Or are we hearing sound from the main track around the port from behind the freeway, the other side of the freeway? Do you know the answer to that?
For my opinion, it's from the bulk of the noise is coming from the fuel plate facility here on Gaffey and Westmont. As far as the trains go in the port, we're looking at China Shipping,
Mm-hmm.
and we're looking at the name of this terminal over here on the corner here in Wilmington on Harbor Boulevard. Those are the only real big trains that affect us. But it's going to be an increase in that, but I don't really, and I listen for it and to determine, is it the harbor or is it this facility here? And the bulk of it that I'm hearing, and my ear is right here. I mean, I sleep at all different times of the day because and it wakes me up. It wakes me up. So
Well, like, John, like the one around 1:30, 2 o'clock, you can hear it, but then around 3:30, there's one that's louder. So kind of like one's kind of not faint, but it's like half the volume of the later one between 3 and 4. So maybe that's the one that comes down Gaffey. We hear the loudest.
the louder one is the one that, because it's closer to us,
Yeah.
Sure.
that you're hearing that, but there's just been an increase of different times now, where when I first moved here in 1992, it was not all hours of the night, 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the morning. Now it's
Right.
all hours of the night, and they seem to hit 6, 7, 8 in the morning. Hard.
I assume that's a result of the 24/7 plan that former city councilwoman Janice Hahn was so proud of, that she'd gone to, she was cutting down on truck traffic by running them all night, which meant more trains as well. So I guess that's of course here to stay. The main reason I have this on the agenda tonight is this. If it's an issue of train traffic in the port specifically, there is a remediation for it, which involves installing additional warning arms at each intersection going around the port, so that instead of 2 arms, one going one way and one going the other way, to prevent you from going in or out, but which permits you to zip around and sneak through the intersection. If each of those intersections were to have 2 arms on each side, then it would not be logical, let alone very possible, for vehicles to try to sneak through and endanger themselves. And what I'm describing is the reason for the requirement of train horns to be blown as trains approach intersections. It's for exactly that reason, that somebody wants to sneak through and will snake through across the tracks to avoid the lowered arms. In order to make that correction, it would need to be a request to the port to spend some, say, $1 million per intersection to effect that change, to add those additional arms, which would then permit them to apply for a waiver so that the trains wouldn't have to blow their horns as they approached each intersection. That's my understanding of it. And so I would really like to know how much of the noise we're talking about comes directly from the port versus the harbor belt line hauling stuff from the butane tanks over to the port. So
Let me give you a little perspective.
Please go ahead. Go ahead.
The trains it's not actually China, it's a Yangming side of the
Right,
Yangming.
Yangming.
They have the trains at.
Yes.
Okay. Now they're over by the police station. Okay. That's where they load and unload the train, and that's where they go in and out. There's one entrance there.
Right.
That okay. But I mean, to me, that's not the bulk of what we're hearing. The bulk of what we're hearing, and you're right on, is the butane facility here, is that they get and they sit on that intersection and they sit there and they keep blowing they just keep blowing and blowing and blowing their horns. And it's just off the hook, you know?
Right.
And
So
and the 2 arms down there was suggested by Pat Nave at the time,
yes.
to put the arms up there, double arm, that would, because also that these trains also carry a lookout person on the front of them, so the operator is not totally blind of what's going on in front of them as they're pushing that cargo, as they're pushing the tanks.
Well, I think I do think that what we're talking about is a quality of life issue for people here in the north end of San Pedro and other areas, central, I'm sure as well. And I'd like to look further into this, first by ascertaining who it is we need to talk to about it and what would need to happen in order to improve the situation, whether it might be money out of the port improvement budget, or if it's something to do with the owner and operator of the tanks on North Gaffey and the Harbor Beltline. So I'd like to end this for now by just saying to be continued, and John, if I can have a volunteer to work with me to try and answer some of these sound questions, I'd really appreciate it. Just let me know after the meeting. And so, thank you. Oh, Victor, your hand's up. I apologize. It's probably been up for half an hour and I wouldn't notice. Hello, Victor.
It hasn't been that long, but I just wanted to let, I'm guessing John is probably the best, John Biglio is probably the best one to answer this. One of the attendees asked the question of why is the Panama Canal going to be-
Excuse me, Victor, does somebody have a TV on in the background or?
I think that might, that's not me, it might be Lori.
Anyway, can't hear you very well, Vic.
Can you hear me better now?
Wait, wait, I can mute everybody, can't I?
You should be able to. I think it's Lori that's
No,
got
I don't want to.
background noise.
Okay, mute all. Mute all. Now, Victor.
Okay, how's that?
Okay, I can hear you, Victor.
Is that better? Okay.
Yes.
Before we got off the subject, I just wanted to let, probably John Dominglio is the best one to answer from previous discussion. An attendee put a question. Why is the Panama Canal going to be used less? And I just wanted to make sure that was, answered before we left the subject.
Oh, okay. Okay, I think if you, now two hands are up. Let's see what I got here. John DeMeglio and Victor's hands are up. Okay. I know a little bit about that. And John, Victor's right. You certainly know more than I do, but there was a time some years ago when it was assumed that when the Panama Canal was widened, that a lot of shipping coming from the Far East would bypass Los Angeles and go directly with the bigger ships, would go directly through the Panama Canal to places like Houston and even Florida and maybe the East Coast, since it would save time to get, hello, my grandson has joined us, since it would, I'll be right with you. Good, I'm glad. It would theoretically save time and cost to get those goods to the center of the United States and the East Coast. But John, I think I'm unmuting everybody, I hope.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Please go ahead, John.
This is a new thing that I've heard. And you're right. They did widen the canal. I've been through the canal on tugboats, and it is bigger now and better. And they thought it was going to make a big difference. But the outcome now is, I think the final decision is it's easier to dump everything here and train it out or truck it out.
John, is dump the technical term?
That's the longshoreman terms. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. So some might say offload, but others will say dump. Okay, I get it.
And they got a lot of cargo right now waiting to be dumped. Also, just for anybody's information, PMA dropped the ball on training people. So now they don't have enough skilled workers. The longshoremen don't have enough skilled workers. So they're only limiting these docks to so many cranes per dock because they don't have skilled operators for these docks. When the cargo we're at a peak right now of things coming in. It's crazy. So ships are now anchored out waiting to come in. And
not unlike past situations that we've all experienced here over the last 20 years. So are some of those cranes are not operating at full capacity, is that right?
They don't have they haven't trained they dropped the ball and haven't trained anybody, and that's pretty much PMA's decision on that. They haven't trained. Why they didn't train all these years, I don't know. Why didn't they train enough people?
So a staffing issue for our purposes here.
But
But
they're
I
still
guess
saying-
I hope
I
that
think
answers the
they got,
question.
they got
Go ahead.
the, they still say that they've done a turnaround and they still say it's easy to dump everything in LA and Long Beach and train it. It's efficient.
Hmm.
And they're gonna train it. They have big terminals in every place where these trains go to unload in every part of the
Mhm.
country. So
Well,
it's
good for us.
again.
Good for us.
It's excellent for us. Yeah, it's excellent for LA Long Beach.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you,
for us.
John.
Okay.
Thanks very much. And I hope
Hope-
that answers
Hopefully
the
the kids
question.
will hear that.
Thank you, John.
Are you?
Moving on to item number 4. Those of you familiar with Harbor Highlands Park here between Capitol and Gatun, just west of the gas company facility, are aware that it's been improved over time. It is a well-used, highly used, some would say overused park. And that's a subject for a whole other time. And it's something that's been an ongoing issue for our neighborhood council and for this committee. Tonight, this is something very specific, which is the note that there are no handicap parking spaces anywhere around the park. And that would seem to be something that should be corrected. I've had a couple of comments about it. And so I want to put forward to the committee in the form of a motion, if I can get a second, a request to the appropriate authority in the city. It's either DOT or street services, I can't remember, but we'll figure it out, to provide a handicap parking spot on Gatun Street. And the suggestion is to put it west of the main entrance to the Harbor Highlands Park on Gatun. There's a slight curve in the road there, which straightens out. And there's a length of about 3 or 4 car lengths that would be perfect, I think, for red curbing and 1 or 2 handicap parking spots. It doesn't have to be there. It could be on the Capitol Drive side, but that's a much busier street. Gatun is quieter. It's a fairly protected area for parking. And it does have that main entrance there that wheelchairs can easily get through. In addition to that, there is a lifted slab of big wide slab of concrete sidewalk that is lifted up there right where this parking space ought to be. And, we're always looking for whose fault is it? It's them. I think this one is clearly the city because it appears to be roots causing the uplift of the sidewalk from planting adjacent to the basketball court in the park. So it would seem to be the city's responsibility to repair the sidewalk at the very least. And then if I have a second here and some agreement from the committee, to request 1 or 2 handicap parking spots in that location. If I can hear a second. Dave Rivera, thank you. David Rivera, second. Any discussion? And 2 hands up. I will get used to this, I promise. I think I promise. I want to. John and Victor. Okay, Victor.
I think John just forgot to put his hand down from before, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
My only comment was, before we would send something in or possibly even vote on it, it seems like we should have a little diagram map, something to show where you're referring to with these locations.
Agreed. That can accompany the motion. I actually have a leftover plan, city plan of the park, and I can certainly do that. I can indicate who, what, where, when, and where the where the crack, where the lift in the sidewalk is, and also where I think we can agree on proposing this, this parking space. So yes, that would accompany the motion that is sent to the appropriate authority. And John? Yes, sir.
I mean, we really have to look at this because there's so many people that have handicap placards.
Right,
In my opinion, that shouldn't have them. Okay.
right.
I do have handicap placards in each of my cars for my son,
Yes,
and I don't use them unless he's in the car with me. Okay.
yes.
Then what you got to look at is some of the neighbors just putting their cars there that do have a handicap placard, and stuff like that. So it's got to be strategically done because, I remember a while back I drew a thing about the park and try to notch
Yes.
in some of the park. Remember that? And
Yes,
put in
I do recall that.
handicapped parking in there, something that could be locked up and opened up by the park people, so that space is used for the people that want to go to the park that are handicapped. It's just
Mhm,
like in
mhm.
these neighborhoods that have they put these handicap signs in front of their houses that people are handicapped and need it, but then the whole neighborhood jumps in and that family never gets a chance to use it, basically.
Mhm, mhm.
So it has to be really looked at and strategically placed where
Mhm.
it's convenient for the people that go to the park and not for the people in that neighborhood. You know what I mean?
I understand. Yes,
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. That's just my suggestion.
and it's a good one. And I'm perfectly happy to make some inquiries about this. I know that is an issue, what you're talking about. And I think sometimes we rely on shaming people to make them stop doing it, but that probably is not very effective. I guess we could modify it to call it a motion to study a handicap parking spot. But but the motion, if we decide to proceed with it, we'd have the motion in place that we could move on and talk to whoever would do the work, if that's acceptable to you.
Dan, I think that's good. And it just that, and we do need handicap parking there. So I just want to make sure we do it right, and let's vote on it to say that we do need handicap parking there. It's up to you,
Okay.
Dan, running it. So
Okay,
I'm okay with that.
good. I can frame it in that manner and provide the drawing that Victor talked about but make it open-ended enough that we're not totally locked in and we can make some inquiries about the very legitimate issue that John's talking about. So
Dave
if
had his
that,
hand, Dave had his hand up.
Dave, yes, sir.
Unmute, Dave, unmute yourself.
Sorry.
Not at all.
I was wondering, isn't there some areas where they put the time limit on handicap parking, like shopping centers and stuff?
Oh,
I've
well,
never
now
really-
there's a
never
thought.
really noticed. If anybody knows.
That could be a thought that handicapped or not, there's a limited time to park at that park so that people don't park for the weekend and who live in the neighborhood and just leave the car there. That's the kind of thinking we need, David. I think that's.
Yeah, like the reason I mentioned that was because there were some areas that I knew where people, they had a handicap parking a spot in front of their home and they considered it that was their spot, and the rules on that, the regulations are that anybody with a placard could park there, not just
Right.
the person that lives there in front of that sign, the handicap park sign.
That's a great point. I know some years ago, a member of our neighborhood council promoted handicap parking in a neighborhood just in front of somebody's home or adjacent to somebody's home. And I I can't remember what the outcome was, except I think we agreed to it. It was probably installed. I never heard if there were issues, but that's the kind of thing, yes, that absolutely needs to be looked at. It's handicap parking, but it is public handicap parking.
Yeah,
And-
that's what I wanted to
And
say.
to go
is
back
that
to what John,
It's public, it's a public,
and that would certainly be a good reason, good sound reason to put a time limit on it. If it's a spot near a park, you would expect someone to be able to park for a reasonable amount of time, but not overnight. So that's good. Victor, yes, sir.
I have had, because of my son, I had, and Davey, that's a great thing, and I wish they would do that. I've never seen it before.
Yeah.
But I thought that would be a great idea to put a time limit from such and such
Yeah.
to, you know, from sun up and sun down when the park is open.
Right.
I think that's a
And
great
I think,
idea.
I think the
I've never
main
seen
thing is, that's true. And I think the main thing is just to prevent overnight parking by neighbors who need an extra spot. Victor, sir.
I'm not sure that a time limit for a handicap space is legal. That would definitely be something we'd have to look into, because everything I found so far, just doing a quick search, says for an unlimited time. So I'm not sure.
That is a great, well,
That could be why there aren't any that John has seen, and I haven't seen any either, because it may not be legal to have the time limits.
that's very, very true. Very true.
And
So,
what you're gonna have to look at, what that you're really gonna have to look at is some of these people without homes that live out of their cars can sit there all day, all night. How many days? I don't know. But we might be opening up a different problem.
a can of worms. Well, it's definitely something to look at, and there must be something somewhere in public statutes about it, so we can at least inform ourselves what the rules are and
yeah,
proceed accordingly. Yes, sir, David.
yeah. The Department of Transportation is the one that regulates all that. So, because I had a situation where I had to call them and ask them questions about some of the regulations on,
Good.
handicap parking. So,
Good.
and I phoned down here at the city hall, and they have a office there.
Well, they will know, then that's great. They will know the answer. And to the question that Victor's asking and John's wondering about. So I'd like to leave the motion in place, but open-ended, so we can look into these things and then make some decisions and move forward. So with that in mind, all those in favor of the motion with the open, with the open-ended quality that I described, please, raise your, what do we do? Raise your hands?
I think just go through all the members.
Yes, David Rivera,
Yes, yeah.
John DeMaglio.
I'm for handicap parking there, but it has to be
Well-
done. Yes.
Understood. This will be an open-ended thing. John Barbera,
Yes.
Victor Christensen,
I have to say a qualified yes, and the qualification is it really appropriate to vote on a motion that's open-ended? And Lori may have some input on that.
well, Victor, you're absolutely right. It is probably not. So I will, let's finish. I guess, let's call this a taking the temperature of the room. Chuck Hart,
Yes.
yes, okay. Well, with Victor's proviso in mind, I thank you all. We clearly have enough support for the motion. I'm happy to, if there's no objection, to table this and come back with a definite motion for this after some research. Do I see any hands objecting to that? Yes, John.
Not an objection, but I'm wondering if you put a a parking sign, like no parking from a certain time to a certain time, and they it's gonna apply to the handicapped or not, then somebody won't just stay there and homestead that. So
I think-
there's a lot to
Yeah.
look into.
So, and I agree, and I think rather than use my lame description of open-ended, I'd rather just step back a bit, look into what we're talking about, and come back with a fully written out and mapped motion next month. Lori?
Hi, Victor is absolutely correct. I think a suggestion I have is tonight, why don't you make a list of all the questions that you have and then delegate this to somebody to do the research so that you answer everything for your next meeting.
It's a good idea. Thank you. Do I see any volunteers? Do I hear any volunteers? Lori, I think I can do it. So I'll come up with the questions that have been talked about here, and I'll send it out to folks for comment. But no voting, no pressure. It's just a comment from people, if that's okay, Lori.
Not my decision. I was just making a suggestion. You've brought up a lot
Well,
of
I
really
like your
good questions. And I was just saying that
Yeah.
you should, or my suggestion is I'm trying to do it myself, is delegate more to people on your committee to do the research.
Right. Okay.
That was my
That's-
suggestion.
That's an excellent one, but one for another moment, because I'm burning through the Dodgers time here. So I will look into it for now.
We're down by one.
Quite yet. Okay.
I think that park has been a sticking point, and we just don't want to tick off anybody else in that area, basically.
Right. We want to tick them on. We want them to be happy. You're right. You're right. Okay. Number 5 is sort of on a holding pattern. It's the request for proposals at the Navy property on North Gaffey Street. Our fear of tanks, that's ongoing. The RFPs, that period has been closed and the Navy is reviewing them. And we will know more when they have decided if they even wish to proceed, if they've received legitimate RFPs that they're looking at. But for right now, we're in a holding pattern on that issue. It's Navy property. We can't really do anything about it, but as we know from past experience, we can make ourselves heard. But I think what we're saying here is we need to have the issue presented to us that somebody actually is crazy enough to want to put tanks in there, for instance, or whatever it might be. So there's no action on this tonight. It's just something we're watching, and we do have a good relationship with the Public Information Office and Seal Beach, and he's been very good about keeping us apprised, and I try to stay in touch with him every couple of weeks. That actually is the end of our main agenda. Is there any public comment? Lori Jacobs, did I cease too quickly, or do you have a public comment?
No, I don't. I'm trying to eat dinner and listen to the game and listen to you at the same time, Dan.
All right, just don't give any more scores. Thank you.
I do. Chuck has a public comment.
Yes, Chuck.
I was driving on Dalmatia in the gardens about
Yes.
10:30 this morning. And there were people walking their dogs, and a woman walking like maybe a 3 and a 4, maybe a 2 and a 3-year-old child. And also strolling down the sidewalk is a coyote. At
Wow.
10:30 in the morning.
Wow.
Yeah, it owns the sidewalk. The people were on their phones that were walking their dogs, calling the police or somebody, I don't know who. I turned around to go back and warn a woman that was walking those little kids that a coyote was walking right towards her.
Good.
panicked, of course, and ran off. But this, I mean, apparently they clearly didn't bother the dogs. But anyway, they're just very brazen, as we all know. But they're getting worse and worse and worse. That's all.
Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Chuck. And
Talk on that also.
well,
We
yeah,
had
yeah.
one on we had one on Berrywood early in the morning. My son goes to work early in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
And you're talking about 5 in the morning, and he was just walking down the Berrywood on the
Yes.
side, going towards Westmont. No big deal.
They are, Chuck
there.
used the right word. They are brazen.
They are.
And they are here. It's perhaps an interesting ending to our discussion this evening. And I want to say to the students with us, public comment in a meeting like this is where someone gets to speak for a fixed period of time, in this case, in our case, usually 2 minutes, on any subject that they wish to address or bring to our attention or complain about. They have the time to do that, but it's public comment, but it's not on the agenda. The topic is not on the agenda. So we can't comment or take any action on the public comment, because that could violate the Brown Act, which is a protection of public interest in the flow of information out of public meetings. So when you hear public comment, that the people, the committee or the board listening to the public comment may seem like, well, why aren't they responding? They can't, because it is a non-agendized item. So the speaker is very welcome to make the comment. We just can't take any action on it or comment on it. It's an interesting facet of public discourse. So I see Victor's hand is up. Victor, yes, sir.
Just a quick comment. The next Science Center Advisory Council meeting is this Thursday evening. So hopefully we'll have some good information to provide at the next meeting.
Now, Victor's, okay, that's a comment, and I won't comment except to ask, is this a regular meeting of that group that was established some time ago?
Yes, this is the
Okay.
first since the pandemic conditions took effect that we are having a meeting. It'll be an online meeting like this.
Good.
And I guess that's John Dominglio and Chuck Hart are also part of the advisory group. And I'm saying some of this for the students that are online who may not know everything about it. I'm the son of the people it's named after, the Vic and Bonnie Christensen technically Science and Technology Center that's on the Berrywood Sandwood curb over closest to Taper Avenue School and Johnston Continuation School. It's part of the LAUSD. I'm not sure how many of you might know that it's there, but we're trying to get it back up and running again to get students there. The last year before the pandemic started, 5th grade science classes from 5 different schools in San Pedro went there as part of a pilot program. But since the pandemic started, there have been people on site, but not the incoming students and things like that.
Excellent. Thank you, Vic. John Dominglio, did you have a comment?
This together, and finally, it looks like that, there's going to be some good conversation there. I just wonder, asking you, Dan, can these young people speak on an agenda item right now, or if it's not a non-agenda item? I don't know. I just wonder.
Well, certainly, I hope I invited them to speak up at the beginning, but if any of you have any questions or comments, we'd love to hear from you. But so raise your hand, or let me go to participants and attendees, and Oh, I'm learning so much. I don't see any hands up. So, oh, there's a hand. 170534, yes. Can you hear us?
Did you unmute them?
Oh. Well, if I can hear Lori, surely I can hear all of them. Okay.
That's thinking logical.
Everybody's unmuted, I believe. So 170534, if you're there. Hello?
Just to let you know, Dan, they don't
if
come up
anybody-
on us. They don't come up on the committee screen at all. We can't, we don't see
Yeah.
any or anything.
Oh, yeah. I guess I'm the only one that can see attendees. All right, you high school students,
They're just in two
I'm
different columns, one panelist and one attendees.
is 170534, can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Dan, next to their
Um,
name, there should be like 3 little dots and you click on that and it should say unmute or allow them to talk.
Well, they're all allowed. I think everybody's unmuted now. And I don't see the 3 little dots you're talking about. That
If we
doesn't
just
mean-
wave your cursor over their name and it should say allowed to talk. Even though you have them unmuted, you still individually have to allow them to talk.
Oh, sorry. Wave my cursor, huh?
Yeah, wave your cursor.
Oh, sorry. There you are, 170534. Are you there?
Hello,
Hello, yes,
can you hear me? This is Pete.
yes. Are you
Okay, I did-
170534?
I don't know what number I have. I don't see no number. on
Okay,
here.
well, hi, Pete. Hi, Pete. Do you have a public
Hi.
comment?
How you doing? Yeah, I
Good.
have a public comment. I'm what I have to say, I just come from the doctors. I had some old surgery, so excuse me. Now, anyhow, what I have to say is we didn't have a good communication with our stakeholders regarding that 7-Eleven and with the gas station down there. And today, our homeowner United put out a good information letter outreach to our community regarding that gas station on Capitol and Gaffey. We're not against the building, but a lot of the people are against the gas station due to the fact of the environmental pollution what that will create. And we have a lot of problem with that already. So, I don't know if you can see it. Let me see here. Oh, now that went away. I don't know. So I can show you the communique. But then you are a member of our homeowner United too. You should have got a letter regarding that information too, didn't you?
I haven't seen it. It may be in the mail. I haven't seen it.
Yeah. Okay. Now, if people
I'll look for it.
So people should respond to that communique regarding if they're for or against it. So, okay, because tomorrow
Very good.
morning, tomorrow we have a land planning and land use meeting also, and they probably want to vote on it, and they should table it till that communique is circulated to our members and stakeholders.
Thank you. Thank you, Pete.
Yeah,
Very good.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments?
Whatever you did with
Victor,
Pete's number came up, so I don't know why these other kids' numbers don't come up.
well, I can see their names and I don't see that.
It has to do with the way he enters the meeting, Dan. He needs to learn how to, we need to
Oh,
help
you
him
mean
learn
hit-
how to enter his name.
Oh,
It has
that's
to do,
fine.
yeah,
That-
it happens
that's
on other
fine.
meetings too. Yeah, it's not a big deal.
I'm glad it's not a great mystery. Okay, I want to thank the students who've been with us. And,
We do have a written question from one of the students.
Yeah.
oh, good. Thank you.
Why don't we host more fundraisers for the homeless people in San Pedro?
Hello?
Pete, thank you, Pete. We're done. So Victor, okay, I hear the question. I don't have an immediate answer to it. Lori, is that something you would tackle?
Sure, I'd be glad to answer that. First of all, we can't do fundraisers per se. We can't do donations, but what we do are neighborhood purpose grants. And as of right now, we have 5 applications that have been submitted that we'll be reviewing next week. Most of them are related to homelessness and or COVID. So we can certainly arrange for supporting events where items are collected. It's just we can't actually collect funds, money, if that's what this person is asking.
Right, it's against our charter. We can't do that. We have a fixed
Correct.
budget.
But we can do and we have done clothes drives. We've done warm coat drives, sock drives. I'm just finishing my agenda for outreach right now. I could add another warm sock drive because during this time of year, it's a much needed item and hygiene items. I'll add it to my agenda.
Thank you, Lori. I hope that answers the question. So with that, thank you all. And unless, as we used to say, unless anyone has anything else for the good of the troop, I will say thank you.
Let me have one. The problem with the fuel place over here on Gaffey and Westmont, I don't see the trucks coming in and out of there. They're not a problem. The only problem is the train.
No, he's talking, Peter's talking about the 7-Eleven fuel.
I understand, but I'm talking about the facility with the train and the trucks. I haven't really had a problem with. It's the trains that we have the problem with there.
Okay, well, that's certainly public comment. Thank you, John. Thank you. Much more to come on that issue and all of these others. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I will point of personal privilege, I'll say go Dodgers. Good luck to them, and thank you all for attending. And John Barbera, you'll work with these kids to make sure they get their credit.
Yeah, I'll give it to Lori.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you all very much. Look forward to next month, the 4th Tuesday of each month. We will see you here again at that time. Thank you. Have a pleasant evening.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Thanks all.